Welcome back to another video, everybody. We have a lot to discuss in this one here to prepare you guys for the rest of this week, which is shaping up to be yet another very eventful week in the markets. Again, we have those Middle East tensions rising. We have some new trade deals that could be coming through, and also a big event coming up on Wednesday here that is going to be critical for where the market heads over the next couple of weeks. Now, as always, we're going to be covering, in addition, some of the most relevant pieces of news on some of your favorite names here, as well as the short-term charts for Palantir, Tesla, Sofi, and HIMS to give you guys a good picture of what to expect in the short term here based on what the charts are currently telling us. So before we get into all of that information, guys, if you guys do enjoy the information and analysis I provide for you guys in these videos here, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn, and make sure you guys are subscribed and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos do end up getting posted live. And as always, massive shout out to all of the members of my private trading and investing community, Less Trades, More Profits. Again, I'm going to throw up some of the game screenshots up here right now, guys. Over the last couple of weeks, you guys have been absolutely crushing it. If you guys do want to hop in and get 50% off your first 2 months with code June with that link down below, make sure you guys hop in before the end of the month here. Again, we are going waitlist only at the end. For those of you guys that don't know, again, you guys get access to all of the educational course curriculum videos, the daily private live streams, the full watch list of stocks and cryptos that are about to explode before they do, the pre-market plans, the macro research reports, single stock research reports, weekly market research reports. Guys, there is so much value in there. I'm probably forgetting a couple of things. If you want to join us in there, the link is down below for you. But let's first start getting into a couple of these things here, guys, because with the FOMC meeting coming up on Wednesday here, there are a couple of things that you guys absolutely need to be aware of. I think a lot of people are really focusing in on right now just the developing nature of these tensions in the Middle East, but aren't necessarily looking at what could potentially happen next in terms of the statements made by a lot of these FOMC members coming in the near future here. So again, some of the updates from today. Iran's Revolutionary Guard spokesman says Iran strikes against Israel will continue until the morning. Now, the one thing that we have to be very, very careful of here is this big spike that we have seen recently in oil prices. Now, the fact that we did see oil move down today is a good sign, but it doesn't undo any of the damage that has been done over the last couple of weeks here. Now, when we think about oil prices and what this can do in terms of the movement up in oil to an economy here, again, we can hear it directly from Jerome Powell from his testimony back in 2022. He says that for every $10 per barrel increase in the price of crude oil raises inflation by 0.2% and sets back economic growth by 0.1%. Now, in this specific situation here, you might look at that and say, well, inflation has kind of already been moving down. We do also have some decent expectations for what Q2 growth is going to be in the United States, so this really isn't going to be all that big of a deal. But what we have to realize here is that the Federal Reserve has been so worried about inflation moving back to the upside this year. And as we can see again from that meeting back in May, the Fed holds rates steady because of tariff uncertainty, that when you introduce this new variable into the system, it is going to open the door up even more for this Federal Reserve to be even more cautious here in a way that the market may not be expecting at this current time. What this is really going to continue to feed into here is the Fed's real worry about stagflation. Again, this was taken from another one of the meetings recently. Uncertainty about the economic outlook has increased further. Officials wrote in their post-meeting statement, the FOMC is attentive to the risk to both sides of its dual mandate and judges that the risks of higher employment and higher inflation have risen. When you combine that with slower growth that could occur as a result of maybe some of these new trade policies, even though, as we're about to talk about, we are seeing some signs of new trade deals coming in the future, the Fed at this current time has been very reluctant to move away from their stance that these tariffs are going to be very inflationary and slow down growth. Now, what I want you guys to understand here is that, again, for those of you guys that have been listening to all of the videos that I have been making here, the live streams and the things that I have been talking about, I personally do not think that inflation is going to start roaring back to the upside here or that these tariffs are actually going to come out and slow down growth significantly in the United States. Again, we did see that negative GDP print in the first quarter of 2025 here, but that was really just the result of imports going through the roof as people really tried to get ahead of these potential price increases that they thought may or may not come later on this year. Now, look at this chart right here as well. We do have CPI slowly inflecting to the upside here as well, even though we did see this data come in a lot lower than what the market expected last week. What we have to think about here, guys, as market participants is, okay, there are the individuals out there, and when they speak, they do move markets. Now, Jerome Powell is absolutely one of those individuals. In looking at the data that we have in front of us right now, what is he most likely going to say next? Is he going to speak very positively about the overall system right now as it relates to inflation, oil, these new conflicts, and trade policy? Or does he have even more of an opening right now to be even more cautious and stick to his stance that he's had for the first 5 months of this year? Now, the other thing that I want everybody to be aware of here as well is that, yes, we do have the FOMC meeting coming up on Wednesday, but some of the most important trading times are not necessarily on the day of the FOMC meeting, but it is in the days following. And Thursday is Juneteenth. The market is going to be closed. So that also introduces some pretty significant gap risk in the market here. So what I'm really trying to get across to you guys is that this week is not necessarily the one to go fully risk on into the market. Again, we have a lot of uncertainty happening with what's going to unfold next with this Middle East conflict. We have the FOMC meeting. We have a lot of other economic data coming out, as well as a shorter week this week with that break in the middle with no market on Thursday. Again, guys, you never want to be in a rush to do anything in the market at any given time. You want to be making sure that you are waiting patiently for those A+ setups when everything is aligning in the market. So let's get into a couple of these individual names here as well, because I know a lot of these did have some pretty strong performance today. One of them being Palantir. So Palantir was up about 2.92% today, with a lot of eyes being on this name, especially with this Middle East conflict starting to heat up here between Israel and Iran. Now, again, Palantir was not quite able to hold these highs, but with what we've been talking about on Palantir here is that even though I don't necessarily think that Palantir quite deserves the valuation that it currently has out in the market, that doesn't mean that you go out and just short this name here. The market is in love with this name right now, and it looks like it wants to take this one into the 150s. And recently, Palantir did also just get a price target increase to the street high. Again, Palantir Technologies received a new street high price target of 155 from Loop Capital here, and this target was raised from 130. So we are seeing that breakout occur right now. And if this overall market does end up trading higher, even with all of the uncertainty and craziness that we are going to see this week, we easily could see Palantir into the mid to high 140s. And if the market really gets going, you could end up seeing those 150s a lot sooner than you may think. Now, I also want to provide you guys a little bit of an update here on this Tesla setup that I've been walking you guys through over the last couple of days here when we're looking at this bounce and period of consolidation here that we've seen after that spat between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Now, for those of you guys in Less Trades More Profits with me, you guys already know what we're looking at here. This is a very, very solid short-term bullish setup here. And even though I was saying in a couple of those videos towards the end of last week here that we may not end up seeing this setup form, having this nice period of consolidation in here again today does set us up for some continued bullish action here. Again, granted, the market is going to need to hold on. We can't see any craziness happen, but this is a very strong setup coming into Tesla in the near future here. Now, again, we did receive some additional news today, some insights from Bloomberg. Bloomberg says Tesla is much closer to full autonomy than Google's Waymo. Tesla has logged 3 billion autonomous miles versus Waymo's 22 million. Only Tesla has full car manufacturing capability, and Tesla projects a 35,000 vehicle fleet by 2026 versus Waymo's 2,000. Now, again, for the medium to long term on Tesla, they are going to need to solve the issues that they're currently having with their deliveries, especially in Europe. But I think a lot of Tesla investors are betting on this full autonomy, and seeing this is definitely a welcome development and can definitely provide that positive catalyst for us to get that short-term trade setup over the next couple of weeks here. Now, the next one that I want to talk about with you guys is HIMS. Now, on the daily chart, which is not what we're looking at here, we're looking at the weekly time frame. On the daily chart, again, I have been highlighting this area for you guys. Let's actually switch this to the daily right here. At about 51.30, if HIMS does end up breaking down below that area there, I do think that it will continue to at least this 46 or maybe even a little bit lower here, this 43 area. And again, HIMS is one that I highlighted for everybody in the videos here and in the private community at this $30 to $31 area. Again, this is not one that I necessarily want to be buying up here, but the reason why I was taking a look at the weekly chart here, which is something that I haven't done on HIMS in a while, is that this does actually look like a pretty bullish weekly chart here. If we get a couple more weeks of consolidation, you end up forming a little bit better of a range, HIMS could have a pretty solid breakout here in kind of the short to medium term off of this weekly setup here. Now, a lot of investors now are looking at kind of this post right here from HIMS that was posted, or hers, on June 15th here, and they are kind of hinting at something coming in the near future coming up on Wednesday. Now, there's going to be a lot of speculation on this. What it looks like from this video to me is that there's some drink coming out that HIMS is going to be offering. We'll see what happens. This definitely could provide a nice little positive boost, especially on the day of FOMC. But again, with FOMC coming up, guys, make sure you are being very, very careful with these positions. In general, though, HIMS, especially down at that $30 to $31 area there that I outlined for everybody, at that point was an amazing buy, an absolute steal, and I still think this one, especially if you are in down at those lower levels, is going to be a great performer over the medium to long term here from an investment perspective. They have a significant amount of growth, and it does look like that growth is going to continue, especially with these new GLP-1 partnerships, especially with Novo Nordisk that they have recently engaged in the recent past here. Now, the last one that I want to talk about with you guys here too is Sofi. Again, not any crazy news coming in on this name here, but when we think about that weekly breakout setup that we were talking about with this name and having that relatively bearish weekly candle forming over here, seeing Sofi jump up about 5.75% today is definitely a welcome move. If we were to see Sofi continue to break lower here, maybe get back down to that weekly 10 exponential moving average, again, I would say that weekly breakout setup there was pretty much done, but seeing this kind of move back up here today, very, very, very strong. If we can get that move above 1520, again, I would say that weekly breakout is still intact, and we easily could see Sofi get back up into that 16 to 17 area as we get into the deeper months of the summer, especially after their earnings coming up in the beginning of August here, if they are able to show continued member growth there, and in addition, relaunching those crypto offerings back to all of their customers, which could again do a lot of great things for them, including generate even more member growth than they were previously expecting. So guys, that is going to wrap up this video here. If you guys did enjoy the information and analysis that I provided for you guys in this one, make sure you go down and hit that like button. Costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos do end up getting posted live. But until next time, guys, I will see you. Peace.